no, it's the electrician. Okay. Hello?
Hi, come through. Yeah.
That's alright.
So there's a few little jobs that nothing too so one is maybe like there to
Okay. Has it got metal on it? What's this? Wow. So we just saying that you've got you've got an earth on the lighting circuits. Then I will need to look at the fuse box. So I have to go and get my screwdrivers and just see whether just to look, see whether it's likely, or I could hear.
It does have an earth, but I can't.
How do you know? Somebody
from
saying.
when I've been looking at some of the other lights, because I've changed some of the other ones here as well. The fuse box is outside.
Okay, so if I do a quote, according to.
There's two couple is this. It doesn't go any brighter than that. When we installed it, it worked perfectly.
Oh, interesting.
And it went through a phase of just flickering, and no other lights on the circuit are affected at all.
Have you tried different lamps? I guess you have.
Yeah, so I've had someone out from, I forget the name of the company now, I think they're Russington, to look at it, and they messed around with it, put a different bulb in it, then put that back in and said it worked. And then 2 weeks later, it just went back to this again.
Isn't that weird? I mean, I've seen it where you can switch it off, and because of induced current in the earth, these things will glow slightly. I've never seen it where you turn it on and it's dim. That's quite interesting, because there's a lot of theory and stuff behind the other effect, but which I've seen and I know about. But this is really peculiar.
This one here.
Okie dokie. Right, so. Right, it's another case of this 10 SWG thing, this 8.3mm stuff that really confuses me. Because it's either 6 or 10, but this old stuff is 8.3, and I've got me doing an EICR going, I can't tell the difference between 6 and 10. It's not either, it's 8.3. So that's a pretty straightforward job. I thought there was chasing to do and all sorts in that job, but that must have been yesterday's job, where I went round a housing estate, all the way around it, couldn't find the address, and I texted him and said, sorry, we'll have to rearrange, got completely lost. But I was quite irritated that his address wasn't on my GPS, and I got confusing directions as well about it. So that pissed me off enough that I actually just drove back to the office and got more paperwork done, which actually I'm quite behind on. But that was a chasing job, and probably would have been around the £500 to £600 mark. So if you go down there, obviously you just end up in the sea. What other things have happened to me this week? I've gone to the lady who I was putting in those outside lights. Thought I'd cured it. I left the lights on for ages, and the electricity is still popping and fusing, i.e. fusing an MCB, tripping the MCB, not the RCD. So I've got to go back there. There was, an interesting one the other night. I went out to a man who's bought a Model 3, and he's moving house, and he uses his Model 3. He's had it, I think, a couple of years, he's into his cars, and he commutes into Shoreham about 20 miles, maybe less, every day, and he gets through £9 of electricity a month on his commute. So he's saying it saved him a load of money, but he's bought a new house, and his new house doesn't have a charging point, and he sensibly wanted somebody to come and look and see whether it was complicated to fit the charging point. It turns out that the sub-main to the garage is only 2.5 armoured, and he was sort of looking through the regs with me at, the maximum 24 amps you can get out of a 2.5 in some circumstances, and the charging point is protected at 40 amps, 45 amps. So I was outlining a cable route round the garden for some 6 or 10 mil to get his capacity up. And of course, at first it was, £700. God, it's really racking up. And that was only the labour. And he worked out that the cable was going to cost 300. And he's going, I don't know. He was really fretting about the price. And I was saying, well, he was fine about the price. It wasn't the price. It was just the amount of work that was needed doing and the complication of it. And so he started talking about getting I suggested a Mustang instead, 5-litre Mustang instead of his Model 3. And he's saying, yeah, I'll probably get something like that, because for the want of paying out thick end of £1,500 to get his charging point where he wanted it, he was prepared to swap his car out. So that went on for quite a long time. He's quite funny. He's texting me at 11:25 at night, and what happens if I do that? I've been in the car and I can get the charging rate down to 24 amps and all this stuff. But then I pointed out, well, you're not going to be able to plug anything into the garage. 24 amps is your maximum. You're not going to be able to run sockets and lighting off it, but you could spur that off the house. You're still into drilling and more work, decorative disorder. So that was him. Then a lady wants me to go and look at a plug socket in one of the nearby shops because she says it went bang. Fine. There was something that really annoyed me, actually, which I thought I'd put down on video that I can't remember what it was now. So a night's sleep has washed it from my mind. I watched a really shit movie last night on Netflix called The Courier. It was quite shit. I can't understand how action movies, with everything that entails production-wise, will get made on such a weak concept and script and screenplay. With some weak acting. Maybe it's because the parts were just gash, but I was surprised to see that Gary Oldman had said yes to it, and he played the baddie in it. So he sort of dominated a kind of wooden and static part, but yeah, don't understand it. What was the other thing I really complain about? Yeah, I had to redo the EICR twice because it didn't have enough detail in it for Stephen, so that took up quite a bit of time. Wellis UK still haven't paid me, to my knowledge, and I took them to court 2 weeks ago. It's only for £300, but we'll see what happens with that. Wellis UK are based in Worthing. I might give them a ring next week. Yeah, so that's about it. I know what I have left out. I've been subcontracting for Navigators Marine Services. Last week I put in a 230 volt installation into a Fairy Huntsman, which is a twin engine motorboat. I couldn't call it a yacht, more like a launch, I suppose, from the 1960s. All the floorboards are up, the two big engines, Perkins 6352s or something. That's a 6-cylinder engine with a 352 cubic inch capacity. So it was very difficult to get into position and do any wiring. In the end, I took umbrage really, and I went into the workshop and I wired a whole installation sort of freehand in the workshop, so that it was gangly and wangly, but I then took all of that bunched up to the boat and just fixed it in place, pre-wired, and that seemed to be a good way to go with that type of problem. I wonder if I can extend that into some of my other work, but I kind of do when I put these connection boxes on for consumer units. Anyhow, the upshot of that is I was 2 days in there and I've got more work. A family with a large steel motor yacht have come to the end of the use of their generator, which is in their engine room, and there's no hatch into the engine room, so the generator has to be dismantled and taken out of a small hatch and a new generator brought in, but they're going to put the new generator in a new place to the side of the port engine to give more space, and they're going to move some batteries up a tier onto some more racking to make way for it. My job is to wire in that generator into the ship system. The problem is the family are on board until the 14th of July. They've got friends and family aboard, and they need to use the washing machine, the air conditioning and everything else. So they've got a 240 volt generator actually on the starboard engine, so they can run the main engine to generate enough, but it won't give them sort of kettle power, hairdryer power and stuff. So the 14th the family come off, but I think they go back on the 24th, and we've got that window to put the generator in. The generator itself is 10 grand, 11 grand, but really they need to spend about 13 on the generator to get the one they need. And the job, I don't know what the job will be bill at, but looking at least 15 grand for that job. So I've got to calendar that in myself. Yeah, that was one thing I'd forgotten. Sandwich down there, nothing to write home about, just your normal Mother's Pride bread, you know, 2 slices of Mother's Pride cut in half with some filling. There's mozzarella and sun-dried tomato in my case. £6.35. It's extortionate. And the only drink I could find was a pint of London Pride, so I had beer in the afternoon as well. God, that knocked me out. £11. So I suppose you'd see that beer on its own was 4 or 5. God. Alright, back to the office then. Been meaning to mention for some time, I actually have a really lovely time in my van. I've got a duvet here, one pillow, and it's actually really snug and comfortable. Getting to work 5 in the morning and then having a couple of hours kit in the van, so I can roll out of bed into work. Got a lot of stuff in here at the moment, but I just thought I'd demonstrate to you how comfortable this place is. Look at this stuff. Okay, I'm just gonna have 40 winks now, and sometimes I open the opposite window and put my feet out there, and sometimes I just curl up. That's really nice. Get to work, leave at sort of before 5, get to where you're going to be about before 5:45, 6 o'clock, and then, you know, if it's residential you can't start before 8:30 really anyway. Just snooze away. But sometimes I wake up at 3:30, 4 in the morning, and my mind's buzzing about the next day, the day of the work. So it's a good time to jump in the van and make use of that energy. But by the time I've got there, I really feel like sleeping again. So this is quite a good system. Saturday morning at the moment. It's probably about 10:15, so I'll just have half an hour. It wasn't 40 winks, it was a bit less. I've got an emergency light to go and look at now. She's just texted, so that's what I'm going to go and do. That's my... I'm going to get my emergency light sorted.